Okay, we are now recording. So welcome everyone. This is our webinar to go over all of the new discipline updates that have happened with the back to school release for PowerSchool in summer of 2026. I will start out by saying that this video should be used for training purposes only, that no real students or information are being shown in this video because we are using a sandbox server full of fake students, fake information, and any likeness to any person is purely coincidental. Now, for those of you who have looked at the newsletter, we've been talking about this discipline update for a long time, and it finally got installed this past weekend. I did put 3 videos out on YouTube that would give you some prep work to look if you wanted to kind of get an inkling of what this looks like, and they're videos that you can also use to take back to your employees. But this one's going to be kind of the full-fledged, top to bottom, everything you need to think about with it. So with this update, all of the drag and drop, that detail page that we're used to has completely gone away inside of here. I do have the chat open so that if you have any questions along the way, feel free to stick them in the chat. I'll be monitoring both screens so that we can answer any along the way. So the first thing I want to start out with is just showing you the overview of what this new outline looks like. And then we're going to jump back into district office to talk about kind of a particular part of the new development with it. And then we'll jump back into the school and actually practice putting in some incidents in so that you can see that workflow from top to bottom. So first of all, starting off, not at the student level, but at the school level, if I were to go to people and all incidents, I do have the incident management page that I usually do see as an administrator on the admin side of PowerSchool. Now, I have just rolled to a new school year in my sandbox server, so it's not got a lot of information in it. We just did rollover last week. But you'll see that I do have one incident referral in here that came over from teacher referral. One of the changes that did happen with this update is on this page right here, which has to do with this observation status. So if any of you have turned on the part of PowerSchool SIS that allows a teacher to put an observation in over in PowerTeacher and submit it to the office as a referral, this is an update that you're going to like because it was one of the pain points a lot of people talked about when it came to using that feature. It was that when a teacher referral came over to the admin side, there wasn't a way to look at it in all of the referrals to know what the status was. So for anybody who is using that feature, you know that it's going to come in as a referred status, that when you have it, you can send it back to the teacher for feedback, you can close it, or you can flip it to an incident. We now have a column that will state the observation status, so you can see what status those are in, and if any are in a referred status that you need to take action on that has not been taken yet. So that was a big enhancement right there for those. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about with that student observation from PowerTeacher, I'll actually go through that in one of my examples here, but I do have another video on YouTube that walks through the entire setup of that that you might want to go back and watch if you're interested in setting that up once I show you that workflow in just a little while. But not clicking into an incident, I want to go straight to create an incident so you can see what these new incident pages look like. So when we click create incident, we are going to now be brought to what is known as a kind of a workflow type wizard for discipline. It's not on one page anymore, and there is no more drag and drop anywhere inside of this whatsoever. So what I want you to notice is that the incident details, the incident page itself is now broken into 3 pages. You have an incident details page, you have a participants page, and you have a review page. So with us going into this from the school side, not from a student side, it's going to bring us into a page of known as incident details. Now, this is where I want to show the difference in how you can approach this with your district. If you notice, the very first box in this page is something called an incident template. Now, I'm going to show how you work these with templates and without templates, but I will say if y'all will take the time to create templates, you will cut down the workflow for your users tremendously, and even what this has been cut down to based on the old part. So if you just ignore the fact that there's an incident template right here, what you're going to have on these pages are 3 very simplistic pages to fill out. The first one is the incident details page, which is merely what it states. It's where you put the details of the incident in. So if I wanted to say I had a profanity situation with a student, and then I put the date and the time. So let's say this happened at 9:33 a.m. this morning. The incident type would be discipline. It's already going to tag to whatever your school you're logged into. So notice I say I'm in Alabama High School right here. It already tags that. If you were trying to enter this from district office, it would tag. You would have a drop-down list where you would have to choose the school that it occurred at. Now, we always do not recommend you entering things from district office. I know there are specific times that is called for, but you don't have schedules in district office, so you can't apply the attendance if you do it from district office. You just have to keep that in mind. Then just like on the old form, we would have to enter in our description. So I would enter description here of whatever details happen with that profanity write-up. For time frame, districts really don't have this set up. The only thing we would have here is duration inside of there. Location, we would choose our in transport, off campus, on campus, these that we've always seen on all of our incidents. So I would choose on campus. If I wanted to provide a location comment, I could here. So if I wanted to put, it happened in the restroom, or it happened in the classroom or whatever. Same thing with location description. There are lots of boxes for you to put as much information as you want to in here. You would then enter who it is prepared by. So I'm going to put that I'm entering this. Here is our financial impact box so that, for example, if the student destroyed a Chromebook in a disruption in class and that was a financial impact, you could record that in this box right here. If it is a bullying incident, we do have that attribute where you can check the box for bullying on this incident details page. So right now it's nothing about the students. It is simply about the incident itself and all of the description information. Once you get that information in, you'll notice 3 buttons on the bottom right-hand corner of Next, Save, and Save and Close. Next is going to do exactly what it says. It's going to take us to this next page in our workflow for the new discipline flow that we have here. Save would be, okay, I'm working on this incident, but I'm not finished with it. I just want to save this and then come back and do the rest later. That is what that means. Save and close means you have completely entered everything in on all pages of this and you're ready to close the incident so that it can then run our DAC calculation for attendance and push that daily code over if we need to. So those are those 3 button options that you're going to have. So in the case of what I've done so far, what I want to do is I want to hit next. And it's going to bring me to a screen where it says add participants. Notice it is a blank screen, and that is simply because I'm doing this from the school side, not from the student's view. If I had gone and chosen a student record and went to create an incident from the student, it would actually pop that student in as being a participant already. And we'll show that in another example a little bit later on. So what I would do is I would hit add participants. So when I do add participants, it's going to bring me up an autocomplete search filter. If y'all remember from putting in the discipline that you had to in the past, you would have to go through, search for a kid, add them over, and then go and search for another kid, add them over, and it was a very tedious process. They have really streamlined this where it is not as complicated at all. Archie, I see your comment saying that time frame is listed as now. Each district could have a different time frame listed, as that is configurable by the district. So where you see duration in my pilot server, you could have a different duration time set there, and that is perfectly okay. When looking for these participants, you do have a drop-down option here that's going to allow you to search either students, staff, or just like we had in the old discipline, you could use that other field. So like, for example, if you have students that got in a fight at a football game and they got in a fight with a student from another school and you just wanted to document that other student, but they're not in your SIS, you can use that create other to do that kind of documentation. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search for staff, because I always like to put the reporter as being the staff member that wrote the referral. So let's say that Miss Samantha Smith is my staff member and they are the ones that actually wrote this referral. So what I want to do is I want to choose Samantha, which is what I've done, and it drops me to this right here, which says, do you want to add role, or we have this other option here to choose a template. So again, we're seeing this drop down of a template theme. We're going to talk about those templates in just a few minutes. In this case, I'm not going to use template. I'm going to start by doing add role. Who is this person? Well, this is the teacher. This is the person that wrote the referral, so I'm putting them down as the reporter. Now, the workflow of this page right here looks the exact same no matter which role you choose. So you still are going to be presented with the option of adding, see the little plus mark, to add a behavior, to add an action, to add objects. Well, in this case, it's not going to make sense to add any of those to this person because all they are is the reporter. So all I'm going to do is leave this page just as it is without adding anything else to it and hit add participant. So my first part of the incident detail of participants is me adding the reporter, which is the person who wrote the referral in this case. Now I'm going to go back to add participants, and I'm going to find my students. Let's say that there were two students that were using profanity against each other in the classroom. So I can go and find the student. So I'm going to choose Mickey Mouse. Y'all know he's my fave. And then this is where I can go through and find the next student if I want to as well. So I'm going to go find Alexis Duck. And let's just say they had a little tiff or started using some profanity to each other inside of in there. It was not a fight or anything, just profanity. Here again is where I can now go through and decide what I'm going to do. If I had templates, we'll talk about those in a minute, you would choose that. But we're going to do this all manually. I'm going to hit add role. So in this case, both of these students were the offenders. They were both using profanity in the classroom. So I'm going to choose offender. Again, it's going to drop down and give me this area where I can add behaviors, I can add actions, I can add objects. So all you're going to do is click into the little plus sign right here, and it expands this area. Now there is a new option right here that says, would you like to do this as a separate behavior or a shared behavior? So if it's something that they are both getting written up for and it's the exact same behavior, you don't have to put it in twice anymore. We can now put it in once and share it among the two offenders. So I'm going to say it's a shared behavior. I'm going to get my behavior code. So it's going to be the exact same behavior codes that we've always had that are our state codes from SIR. So I'm going to come down and find MNOP, profanity, put it right here. If I have a comment, I can enter that comment right here. If you have multiple behaviors, and even if it's only a single behavior, you are going to want to check this primary behavior box, because notice that right up under here, you have this option to add another behavior. So maybe it's a situation where a kid is vaping and then they use profanity towards you when you take the vape from them. So maybe you want to document both of those, that it is profanity being used and that it is vaping being used. In that case, all you would do is hit that add behavior button, and it'll bring up another little blue box like this so that you can add another behavior code and comment if you would want. When you have those, please make sure which one is the primary behavior has been marked. Once you have the behavior entered, the next thing you want to do, just scrolling on down this workflow, is to put in our actions. So what are our actions on here? So let's say for this right here, it was just a minor incident. All I'm going to do is contact the parent. So that's going to be a local use code that I have set up right here for contact the parent. And then I maybe, put some information here of what that action code comment is for whatever I would like to. For action assigning to the behavior, we're gonna talk about a setting at district office. Remember that in the state of Alabama, all actions are assigned to behaviors. So there is this option to assign participant. Notice that it is gray in here. So when it is gray, that means I cannot choose it. There is actually a setting at district office that I'm going to show in a minute where everybody needs to set that this is going to be forced to be chosen for a behavior. So what it will do is if you have multiple behaviors listed, it will say, okay, this action that you're going to put on here, whether it's ISS, OSS, contacting parent, detention, whatever it is, which one of these behaviors are you placing this on? So in this case, I only have the one behavior, so I'm going to choose that. And then I'm going to put my 3 dates, the action begin date. So let's just say this call was made today, so I'm going to put 7/8, which means it's going to end on 7/8, and then my actual resolution date is 7/8. If you want to have action detail taken, you can put this information on here, because remember, this is the box that if you use the discipline letters that are set up inside of here, where it pulls some of that description information from. So you might want to make sure that that is entered. If you use durations, you would enter that information here. Most districts do not use durations, but if you do, then you'll again have to instruct this. So for all of my admins that are district level admins on here, you'll need to instruct your users whether that is required or not for your system. Scrolling on down, if you had to make a change in here, you have a box where you can add in the action change reason or an action change code. We also have those CRDC codes so that if we had a perceived religious bullying on here, we would choose, what that is on here. Objects is another area where not many districts have that chosen at all or have it set up. So if you did, you could add some. If not, you just tell them to scroll on past that. And then we're not going to worry about these participation attributes because we don't use durations in this server. So once I have basically the behavior and the action on there, then you can add participants. Michelle, what do I need to do if my primary behavior is grayed out? Well, let's look at some of the settings first at district office, Michelle, to see if some people have been setting some things up, and I'll show you why that could possibly be there. So I've got everything in there. I'm going to click add to participants. Once I do that, notice where I did have Samantha Smith, who was my teacher that turned in this referral as the reporter, I now can see Mickey Mouse and I can see Alexis Duck. And I really love this layout right here because it allows you to see everything. Y'all, if you remember in the old drag and drop, you couldn't see anything other than the action behavior. You couldn't see any dates. You couldn't see any of the details of it. You had to click into those to be able to see them. Well, in this, you're able to see everything in kind of that linear format. So I see that I have Mickey. They're being written up for profanity, and they were assigned contact a parent, and I did it on this date. Also down here, I see that I had Alexis. She was also written up for this for using profanity. So there's a profanity. She also got a parent contact on this date. But let's say something changed and you're like, no, Alexis is not going to have a parent contact. She's going to get 1 day of ISS because this was actually her second time that she has had this to happen. It's very easy to go in and edit these or delete them if you need to. If you'll notice, each one of these have little trash cans and they have little pencils. Those are our symbols that we know are going to be our delete and be our edit. So if I'm like, okay, Alexis, no, you're actually going to get 1 day of ISS for this, then I'm going to come over here and change this to suspended in school. Now, as soon as I do that, it's flagging me because it says, hey, you've just picked an incident that you have mapped to attendance behaviors. So it says attendance entry is enabled for this action. So I'm still going to leave these dates, and I'm going to change this to ISS 1 day, just as a comment here. And I've got all of my information. So I'm going to say update participant. Once I do, and it marks that to be suspended in school, I now have this yellow bar down here on her record that says, hey, you have attendance-related actions that you need to take care of. If y'all remember in the old discipline, this was located at the very bottom of that discipline screen where you kind of had to click that pencil to fly out the menu. Well, in this one, you got to click this edit button. And I want you to notice, I don't know how many of you did, that my next button went away. And we did that on purpose. We have put a hard stop in this program where you can't go to the next page until you enter the attendance so that we can have the DAC run correctly in here. So I'm going to hit edit. It's going to give me that same flyout that I've always seen. And I'm going to say set the range for all, which was just for this 1 day. So notice it builds ISS down all the periods of her schedule. And I'm going to click OK. As soon as I fill that in on the meeting side, notice my save button comes back up and save and close does as well. But we're not ready to save and close yet. We need to go to our third page. So remember, I'm in a 3-part page. We do our details, we do our participants, we do our review. So if I hit the next button, I then get this page where I can see everything all in one area. I can see all of my details. I can see all of my participants. I can see everything inside of here. I can double check my dates before I decide that this is ready. The other thing that I really like about this, and for those of you who attended my session at AETC, this is an update since that session because we took in a third update in the summer release this weekend that was not mentioned at AETC because it's brand new. For those of you who were there, remember how I said this would be a great page to be able to print out and send home to a parent because it's got everything on there. Like if I could just right click and print, a lot of us want something we can send home to the parents after a referral, where this would be great if it didn't have every kid on here. And I said, well, maybe one day PowerSchool will make it where we can just show one kid at a time. Well, they did. Now I can go up here and say, okay, just show me Mickey Mouse. So if I check that, all that's showing on here is Mickey Mouse. I can now print this page and use that as a printout that I can send home to the parent if I wanted to, if you didn't want to use a discipline letter or something. So you can choose which participants you see, which roles you want to see. If I only want to see offenders and I don't want to see this, like you use this to check. Now, most of the time, you're going to have very few participants on here. 1, 2 kids, something like that. If you had a big, food fight in the lunchroom that had 8 kids, yeah, maybe you want to do some filtering to kind of cut down so that you don't have to scroll so much on the page, but that's completely up to you. But these filters are there. The other really cool thing about this page is that there's this checkbox right here that says show empty fields. So right off the bat, I can see everything that I filled out, but what if there's like a field that I want to make sure it was, but I don't see it? I can click this show empty fields box and it will show me everything that I also left empty and did not put anything in on so that I could check. So I'm going to uncheck that, and now I have everything set like I want. I've got some questions coming in. Does it fill days if it's going from Friday to Monday? Yes, Natasha. Nothing with how that part has worked has changed. It will fill in days just like it did in the old view of this. Oh, Juanita, is profanity vulgarity a sir that allows a local action? Is it possible to mismatch? Yes, it is possible to mismatch them. Is there a link to state codes with definitions? Absolutely there is. In the state data code manual, I'm going to put this link in chat. And this is also linked on the Alabama PowerSchool website, but this is to a live binder, and you'll notice that there is incidents and reporting up here in section 5. So you can look at your behavior codes. Here's the entire list of them. And I highly recommend for people who are having to enter in the discipline that they print this out and have it by their computer, because so many people misuse these codes. One of the things that we're going to do, and you're going to see it when I do a vaping one in a minute, we're going to get these definitions pushed down into PowerSchool so that as you're choosing them, you see the definition of if it should be used or not. That way you know if you're using it inappropriately. Because, for example, a kid will bring a firework to school, and we're seeing people put it in as explosives. Well, it clearly says for those do not do for fireworks. So, that kind of stuff, we want to make sure y'all are reporting SIR in the best way and not over-reporting bad things that really aren't as bad as it looks like, on paper. So yes, you can see there's the behavior codes, and here's the tab right here for the action codes. So that will help y'all tremendously in making sure that y'all are using these in the correct manner. What about 2 or 3 day suspension? Yes, Sharon, you can absolutely do 2 or 3 days. Nothing in that part has changed in how and what you can add in here. So we've got all of our information in here. We are finished. So the next thing I'm going to do, since I want to now close this out, if I just hit save, this means I'm going to come back later and finish it. But if you are done with it, then what you're going to do is come to the save and close. It's going to say that yes, it saved successfully. And it's going to bring up that daily attendance calculation screen. And this is where it's saying, hey, you did the meeting attendance, and now we're going to take that previously daily code of none, which is present, and push that new daily code of ISS over to it. And I'm going to hit submit. Oh, yes, Selena, we will. It is recording, and we will be sending this back out. So that's the longest part. And I know I did a lot of explanation in there, but it really, really does make it go a lot smoother than that drag and drop stuff that we had to do. It's very much a workflow that walks you all the way through it. Now, before we go on to any more examples, let's go back and talk about a couple of settings that every district is going to want to touch. And I did a video on YouTube already about this, so some of you might already have it set up. That's going to make that go even faster. I don't know how many of y'all saw the Insider, and I did a similar mock-up of what Jason did in that video he showed. Literally an incident that had 8 people doing a food fight in a cafeteria using the old method would have taken 2 minutes and 45 seconds to do. Or 2 minutes and 54 seconds, something like that. Doing it in the new method, it could be entered in 45 seconds. Like literally, it's going to be so much faster for you to enter. But we can make it even faster with these templates. So I want you to go back, for those of you who are district admins, to district office. And let's take a look at these settings. What would it mean to make these templates? And what is that setting that makes sure that our behavior gets added the right way? So in district office, under district management, you've got behavior. So the first thing that I want you to do is to go to our Incident Action Association. This is a must for all districts. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I've got a question into PowerSchool to see if there's some way that I could go ahead and do this and lock it down. But this action association needs to be set by every district. It needs to be set to behavior. There are three options: participant, behavior, or participant. There are no choices in Alabama. Everybody in Alabama must have this set to behavior, because that's what we used to have to do, the little tier step drop that we had to do when we were doing our drag and drop. That has got to be in there the correct way, and that's without us doing the drag and drop the way that it gets associated. So please make sure every district has this setting set so that automatically defaults to you having to choose a behavior, and you don't even get the option to add it to the participant. Now, also inside of this district office, we have incident templates and we have participant templates. So if any of y'all used any of the quick incident templates in the past, all of those did transfer over with this into the new interface that we have for discipline. What I want you to do is think about these as incident templates are the behaviors that you want to set. Participant templates are where you kind of codify all of the codes for those behaviors. So I'm going to start off with incident templates, and here is what I want you to have the discussion for in your districts between now and the start of school. Everybody on this call has a code of conduct book for their school and district, correct? We all have one. In your code of conduct book, do you lay out all of your consequences for infractions that kids do? For example, vaping. If a kid gets caught vaping for the first time, do you have a set consequence that will always occur? Profanity. Do you have a set consequence that's going to, and I say always, but we'll say 99% of the time, we always know there are those edge cases where you're going to have a consequence that's going to occur. I remember the district that I was in, first consequence of profanity was calling parents. Second offense was 3 days ISS. Like that's what was in the code of conduct book. What these templates do, or they allow you to go ahead and predefine those choices so that instead of me having to click those plus boxes and choosing the action and choosing the behavior, it can go ahead and preset those and any of those boxes for you. So first thing you have to define are the incident templates. These are what I'm going to call the behaviors that you're wanting to give some type of consequence for. So I've got 3 right here, but I'm actually going to go in and adjust this one called vaping. Because if we remember here in our behavior codes, because my advice would be take every one of these behavior codes and go ahead and preset one for them. If I go down here to vaping, we actually have different types of vaping. We have vaping possession, vaping usage, and vaping sale. So let's say I'm going to create a template for my district for vaping usage. I could even copy that name and put it in there if I need to. So I'm going to say vaping usage is my template name. So the first thing you do is create your template name, check the box to enable it, and then whatever description that you want to put for you as the end user. And again, these can only be created at district office. These cannot be created at the school level. So you've got to be consistent about this and how you want this to look across your whole district. So I'm going to put vaping usage, and this is to be used with a vaping incident. I could say where a student is using a vape. I'm going to hit next. Basically, this is going to allow you to go ahead and pre-populate all of the information in the incident details part that we just went over when we entered that discipline incident. So if you have specific, codes, if you have specific whatever's in yours, you can tie that in here. So for example, I'm going to change that from vaping in restroom to say vaping usage. And if you've got, get rid of that I. If you've got a code of conduct book that has these policy numbers in there, you can put those descriptions in there. So I can say this is going to be used for vaping usage, which is violation 32.56.7.9. Some of y'all have those little codes in there. Perfectly fine. Description. If you have a common description, which I know this is going to be kind of hard to do, you can go ahead and preset the description. So let's say that maybe the majority of your vaping is called in the bathroom. Okay, maybe 80% is and 20% is not. If you wanted to go ahead and preset the description, vaping detector went off in the bathroom, a faculty member went in to check and found the student vaping in the restroom. You could have that in there so that when they started the incident on a student, that would already be in the description. And if that's what really happened, then that works. They can rock on and not have to put anything in there. But if not, they could just delete it out and put whatever needs to be in there. As a district, you can also use this as an opportunity to put instructions in the description box. So for example, if there are certain things that you want your administrators to enter when they're putting in an incident inside of PowerSchool, you can put that in here. Big one is fighting. I know a lot of times we have to remind administrators, be careful what you put in the description in a fight, because we try to not use student names. We try to, be generic because their students will be pulled to it. But if there's certain things like you want, please make sure you put in where the fight occurred, put where this occurred, what happened. Then you can put those directions right here and say, please make sure you do not enter student names. Please make sure that you enter the location that it was entered. You can do things like that inside of here. I'm just going to leave this description right here. I can go ahead and preset the incident type. So in this case, it is discipline. So I would, because teacher referrals are going to come over from the teacher side, but this, and I can go ahead and just preset its discipline so that it doesn't have one more thing that they have to check inside of there. Time frame is, in this case, for me, it's duration. Now, some of you might not have time frames. If you don't have time frames set up, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to use it. You can leave it blank. And then prepared by, I can just put directions, enter your name here, or I can leave it blank. Either one, it does not matter. Scroll down for location. I can go ahead and preset the locations for the user so that they don't have to choose it when they're going in there, or I can start it, and if it's not what it actually was, they can then change it after the fact. So maybe I want to say this is an on-campus violation. I could make 3. I could make one on campus, off campus, and transport. So you can make as many of these as you want to with these templates. I can go ahead and fill out any of these descriptions. Now, notice also that there are these little pencils right here. These are going to allow you to also go in here and say, okay, of these different fields that I have filled in, do I want to include it or do I want it to be required? If there are boxes that you are not going to use, you can actually turn them off. For example, do you notice that there is not a box for me to pre-populate financial impact on here? But yet, when I did the discipline entry a while ago, I talked about that financial impact field. Well, in this case, I have turned that field off because we don't think financial impact is going to happen when it's a vaping incident. Okay? You can choose to include it, and you can choose to make it required. So if I do that and hit submit, it will then show that box right here and show it as a required field. If I don't want that to be there and to be used, I can absolutely not include it, not require it, and same thing with time frame. If you don't have durations set up and you don't use durations, then I can just choose to not include it at all. But if I want to make sure that the description is always entered, that nobody skips that box, then I can choose to make it required. Same thing with prepared by. If that is a field that I need to make sure everybody enters, I can check it and I can make sure that it's required and hit submit. So you can make this as little or as much as you want to. Same thing for location. I have filters here, so I can say, yes, I want the location field to be there and I want it to be required because that has to be filled in by state. The description, well, that's not required by state, so if we don't require our people to put it in there, I can either take the box away, or if you're like, no, I want to see a location description and I want them to require it so that I know what classroom or what bathroom or whatever, I can do both of those in there. So you have some autonomy as a district to turn some of these on and off in that template view. So I'm going to uncheck required on that, just leave it visible and hit submit. So now I have kind of set what will pre-populate in those incident templates. And I'm going to hit save. So again, incident templates get you a pre-populated details part. So how do I pre-populate all of that participant information? Well, that's where the second part of templates come from, which are going to be under behavior, and you'll notice these participant templates. this is where you're going to want to set up all of your consequences. So if you'll notice right here, I've kind of gone through and made some examples for you to see. Let's say you have a standard fighting that has been assigned 3 days OSS. You can go in and set that up. Notice that I've gone here and I've set up these vaping first offense, vaping second offense, because does your code of conduct have tiered consequences for first, second, and third offenses of things happening? If so, you can set that up. If you have a normal, or you have these most often given, like fighting 3 days OSS is a typical that a lot of people do, fighting 5 days OSS, or alternative placement, or things such as that. You can go ahead and pre-populate all of those consequences inside of here. So let's take a look at the vaping one, and I'll show you how I have it set up. So the first thing is you're going to want to make sure you check this box to say enable it, and then you do a template name. This is what's going to show in a drop down for the user, so make it make sense to your users what they're choosing. So this says vaping first offense for the offender. So this is the template that I would want to assign to the offender, not to the reporter, but to the offenders that are the ones who got caught vaping. I can put the description to be used on students' first vaping offense. Here is where I can preset all of those things that you saw me drop down and choose in the example just a minute ago. So for those, it would be the role, they would be the offender. I get all 4 choices here. So if I wanted to go ahead and pre-populate a template for a reporter, I could, but since they're only just choosing reporter, it's just as easy just to choose that role. But for the offenders, you would want to choose that. Which template do you want to link this to? So I can choose any of the templates I have already created. In this case, I want this one to specifically be going to vaping. Now, I could set up like a generic 3-day out of school suspension or something like that I could then assign to multiple and say, hey, you can use this on any of these. You can choose one, or you can choose multiple incidents to have this attached to. I can go ahead and preset my behavior. So notice I've gone ahead and click into it, and I've said preset this behavior code as vaping usage and go ahead and mark it as the primary behavior. Notice those are the only 2 boxes that I have, along with this option of do I want to share it if it's been applied to multiple. That's your choice whether you want to or not. Most people are probably going to go ahead and check that box. Notice this gear icon. This gear icon is the same as the pencil icon you saw on the incident template, where I can go ahead and say, what do I want to have set on this behavior? Like, it doesn't even have the option for that allegation checkbox. If you want that to be there, then you check that box. If you don't want it to be there, then you uncheck that box. And that just gives them one less thing that they have to look at and see and think about if they have to fill it out or not. Same thing on the actions. Notice I've pre-populated a local use action of contacting the parent. So I went ahead and said, okay, for the first offense of vaping, I'm going to do local use, contact the parent. It's going to automatically be assigned to the vaping behavior, and I can go ahead and put the action detail taken to contact the parent. That way, the only thing they really have to be left to fill out are going to be these dates. Now, I also have this cog icon here that's going to give me all these options of what do I want to require and what do I want to just take away from the view altogether. So in this case, the action begin date is going to show and it's going to be required. The end date is going to show and it's going to be required. Action taken detail, I can say show it, but not necessarily required if you want to just let them be used. Action resolution date, again, show and required. Notice I did not check any of those durations because I don't require durations inside of my sandbox. If you decide that your district requires durations, you'll want to check them. If you don't, then you leave them unchecked. And again, that's less fields that they have to worry about looking at to try to figure out filling out. I did decide to leave the action change reason in case they have to, and we need to document that. And I decided to leave the CRDC proceed religion option there in case they needed to add something in there for that. So you can set up these however you would like and make sure that you require what you know has to be done for state and just make optional for the things that you would want, or get rid of anything that you know is not required by the district or by the state. We don't really use objects. I don't have anything set up here. If I did, I would go through and choose it. I don't know if any district has set up any objects. If you have, you can absolutely use it. I didn't, so I'm just going to delete that out. Yep, I want to remove it. Not going to worry about attributes. So once I have that in there, and I really haven't changed much, so it's not going to have me save anything. You would go through and build out all of your participant templates. All right, couple of comments that have come in. In the past, when observations were returned to teachers, they weren't able to return them. Has that been corrected? Teachers should have always been able to return them. So if there's something that's going on there, we might need to take a look. It could be in the setup of it, Natasha. Is there a way to block the names of victims or reporters from a report if parent to ever request it? Yes, in that drop down that I showed you of who you can check on that review screen, you're able to. Now, that is one of the reasons that we also say don't put names in descriptions so that the names are only on participants. Because if you put it in the description, there is no way. If there is a pre-populated action, can they change it when using the template? Yes, Charlene. Any of these can be changed after it has been entered onto the student, and I'll show that in just a second. Can we create pre-populated stated for certain behaviors to ensure teachers are using the correct verbiage? Yes, you can. That's the beauty of this right here, Natasha, is you can pre-populate those to make sure the correct stuff is being used in the correct way. So now that we've got our template set up, let's navigate back to the school level. And let me show you what this looks like when you're doing it from a school level and doing it from a student. So let's go ahead where it pre-populates the participants so you can see the fastest way to enter these all together. So I'm going to choose my student. Go to my favorite kiddo right here. And let's say we called him vaping. All right, so you would typically go to behavior and incidents. It's in the same location that it has always been on the student record. And I'm going to hit create incident and say that this is an incident that occurred yesterday, and we're just now getting to put it in. So notice this time, because I've created it from the student record, it's already got the student tagged as a participant. So that's one less step you have to do it if you do it from the student record instead of from the school level all incidents page. So because we have a template, I'm going to come up here and choose templates, vaping usage. And it's going to say, hey, this template will update the fields. Are you sure you want to do that? Which our answer is yes. So we're going to hit apply. So once I do that, notice it goes ahead and puts all of that pre-populated information on there for me. So all I've got to do is update the date and time. So let's say that this actually happened yesterday at 11:11 a.m. So it went ahead and set discipline. It went ahead and set the description. Now, if this is what legitimately happened, I could leave that there because that's my most case scenario. If it's not what happened, well, then I can just delete it out and type in whatever I need to, but it gives me a starting point. It says on campus, that's where it happened. I'm not going to worry about location comments. And it said it happened in the restroom, and maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. If it didn't, I can take it out. And here, enter my name because the district wants that in there. So I hit next. Once I do, notice the student is already right here. So because the student has already been chosen, all I've got to do is go in here to add the plus sign for behaviors. Now, notice up here, because if I scroll, it's that same screen that I had when I did the add participants earlier. But because I have templates, I can choose this. And at the top, here's where, if you'll notice, there's a little gray line right here. Any participant templates that you associate with the incident template. So remember, I chose the incident template vaping usage. In my setup, I tagged these two to that template. They are shown first for your users to use. It will always still show any other templates that you have, but it will show the ones that associate it automatically at the top. I do know some districts have said, Stacey, is there a way to only show these right here? And right now there's not, but I have given that feedback to PowerSchool. Would there be a way for us to be able to lock these in where the only ones that would show would be the ones that you assign to that template? Because I don't want them to choose any of these others down here. I just want them to be able to choose one of these two. So in this case, I'm going to choose the vaping first offense. So when I do, it's going to say, hey, we're putting all this information on there. Are you sure? Yep, I want to apply. And then it's going to say, hey, I'm going to tell you anything where it was not finished. Let me get rid of that right there because that's where I went to add the behavior. And it gives me my vaping usage. Now, do you notice on this one, it gives a description right here? Using a device to inhale and exhale vapor containing nicotine and or flavoring or other substances. if I go back to our data code manual and I go to vaping usage, scroll down, notice it says using a device to inhale or exhale vapor containing nicotine and or flavoring or other substance. It is.
Okay, perfect. So let me back up. Let me cancel this out. And I'll have fun editing all that fun stuff out. So I don't remember where we left off, but we're going to say we got back to the point. Oh, you cannot see the screen? It says I'm sharing. All right, let me unshare and do it again. Okay, I'm sharing the screen again. Most people are saying they can. It says you are, but it is black and spinning. But a lot can see it now. Okay. Remember, we are recording, so we're going to keep plowing through. And if it's spinning, y'all just give it a minute to see if your side catches up. All right, so we chose the incident template for the vaping usage. When we went to the participant screen, it already puts Mickey on the screen. So what we're going to do now is go in and choose that participant template on Mickey. So if you'll notice, we've got the area to add the behaviors, the actions, the objects, but also up here at the top in this right-hand corner, we have a pencil and we have the trash can again. When we click this pencil, now you can choose any of these, but that's going to be like if you're wanting to add another to it. In this case, I just want to click the pencil, which is going to bring me to the same screen. It does not matter if I choose that pencil or if I choose this plus sign. It's just going to go ahead and start, giving me a drop down, which I don't want because I'm going to use a template. It all brings me to that same screen where it's got Mickey and it's got the template that I want to choose, or I can hand enter whatever I need to. In this case, I want to choose the template. Now, when it comes to choosing a template, you're going to see in the list any template that has been created as a participant template in there. However, the ones that you've actually connected to that incident template, so I chose the vaping template and I connected these participants to that, they're going to be above this little gray line, so they'll be listed first. And that's what you want to have your people draw their eyes to. Now, there has been questions made to PowerSchool or requests made to them. Is there a way to lock these in where if I choose vaping as an incident, the only participant templates I want them to see are the vaping ones? And right now that does not exist, but we have given them feedback to see if they can create a way to lock those. So we'll stay tuned to those in the future. Right now, they'll see any template you created, but the ones that are associated with the incident that you chose are at the top. So in this case, if it was Mickey's first offense of vaping, I'm going to choose vaping first offense. If it's the second offense to vaping, we're going to choose the second offense. So let's actually say it's the second offense because that's got an attendance related action. So I'm going to choose vaping second offense, and it's again going to ask, are you sure you want to tie this to it? And I'm going to hit apply. And it's going to say the template has been applied to the sections, update any required fields. Well, notice there's nothing in behavior to be required because if I click on it, everything was already filled out. I went ahead and pre-populated in the template that they're to choose vaping and to choose a primary behavior. Notice in this that you see the actual policy information, vaping, a device used to inhale, exhale vapor containing nicotine and or flavor and other substance. That is actually from the data code manual for this same right here. What we're going to work on doing is getting all of these pushed down into PowerSchool so that every time y'all choose a behavior, it's going to give those definitions of the behaviors and the actions for you. So we're working on that, going to work on that this summer. Also for the actions, notice it went ahead that this has been pre-populated because I chose it in the template to say that it's in school suspension, but it does say it's incomplete because remember the one thing that I can't pre-populate in those templates are the dates. So if I click on this, I can enter comments if I want to. I can click in whatever I need. And then down here, I can say, all right, this is going to be a, 1-day ISS, and let's say it happened yesterday. So I'm going to put the dates on here. Notice it says required because in my template, I put required. And instead of doing 3 days, I'm just doing a 1, even though the template said to do for 3. So you can adjust any of these after the fact once you get the template applied if you need to. So once I have those dates in there, I can hit update participants And so because, again, I chose one that has attendance-related actions because I chose ISS, my next page goes away and I have to click Edit to push those dates in. So I'm going to say set the range for all, hit OK, and now my next and save pages are there. So I've got the incident details entered. I was able to drop the participants in there and use the template to go ahead and put the behaviors and actions in there. And so now I'm going to hit next. It's going to bring me to the incident details page where I can review again all of the incident information that I put in there and the information that I put on the student. In this case, it was just one student, and we said yes, it is a vaping behavior with an action of in-school suspension, and these are the dates of it. So once I hit save and close, you're going to get these little icons here of incident saved successfully. And my page is spinning, so just give it a second, and it's going to bring up that incident and daily attendance calculation screen. So if I have that attendance screen right here, it's going to say, yep, on the 7th it was a present, but that is actually supposed to be an ISS. And so I'm going to hit submit to do that daily record over. Carlton, my question is, how much of this info is available to parents when they decide to fight discipline using the new law? Example, if I put teacher or student in as a reporter, will that show as part of the info that's given to parents? Well, Carlton, that depends on what you're giving to the parent, because parents can't just see anything with discipline in the parent portal or anything. So it depends on what you have entered in here and what report you decide to print or discipline letter that y'all have configured in your district and what it's pulling, whether that is in there. All right, so when it comes to the incidents, if you go through and take the time to set those templates up, it will make this flow much easier for your users in being able to go in and find all of that information. So let's go in. I'm going to go choose another kid since we kind of got broken up in that one, and let's do another one. Let's go put a fight in because I do have a template in here for a fight. So I'm going to grab my 12th graders because I know they have some good schedules in here, and I'm going to choose this kiddo right here. And I'm going to create an incident. And let's just work it top to bottom without a lot of explanation to see how long it takes to enter in this fight. So because I know that my district has templates, I'm going to come up here to the fighting template. I'm going to say apply. There's my title. I'm going to put the date and the time. And let's say this happened at 10:33 a.m. And then I would just go through blah, 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 put my description of whatever is happening in this fight inside of here, type away. Because I did on this one require the time frame, I had to select that on there. Campus, this is prepared by Stacy Royster. And that's all I need, so I'm going to hit next. Now, it's already got this student on here, so I'm going to add in a new student. And let's say it is Anthony. And I'm going to select this role, select this template for Anthony. I know he's going to get fighting 3 days ISS. So I'm going to apply, or excuse me, OSS. So I'm going to apply. I know the fighting behavior is already going to be there. I can click on it if I needed to. On the suspended out of school, it is incomplete because I need to go put the dates in there. So if I need to put the 3 days and say, okay, this is going to be Thursday through Monday. So my actual resolution date is going to be Monday. I'm actually not going to use duration codes, so I'm going to get rid of that and get rid of that one. And I'm going to add that participant in there. So now I've got this student has their information in there. I can edit, below set range for all for them, hit OK. I'm going to go to this student because this is where I came from. So I'm going to say, yep, I want to choose the template on them as well, which is the fighting. And once I choose that, I'm going to go in here, put my days for them as well, which is going to be Thursday through Monday, ended on Monday. And in this template, I went ahead and did duration, but let's say I don't want it on there. I'm going to get rid of it, hit update participant. So now I see my information on Zycuria. I can go through, hit edit, set range for all on these. So let's say both of them were fighting. So Natasha, you would just make sure that you put the right codes on there that you would need to. If this was Anthony's second one. Oh, did I not save Anthony? I guess I didn't save Anthony's when I entered it. So I'll show it this way. So if I needed to say that this was something different, if it was his second fight and the other one's first fight, I could come over here and say fighting, and let's say they're going to get 5 days. Primary behavior, I don't want to replace it on separate behavior. Primary, yes, and then action. So let's say that theirs is going to be out of school suspension, and it's going to be 5 days. So behavior, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you could go through and do it differently if it was different on each student. It can be adjusted on these as you're going through here. And you can update your participants. So then I'm going to hit edit, set range for all. And so now you'll see that I set for Anthony all of those days, since this is his second fight, where it was the other student's first fight. And then if I need to go add my reporter, so I'm going to go find the staff member that wrote them up. So Miss Smith wrote them up again. So I'm going to add the role of reporter, hit add participant. So now I've got both students, both infractions, and the reporter. I go to next. I'm good with all of my information. I'm going to save and close. So it saves the incident. It's going to go through a process because I did have attendance on those 2 DACs. And yep, there's the 5 days on Anthony, the 3 days on Zykeria, and it's saying flip them all to OSS and hit submit. Kim, is there a list of updated discipline codes, state and local? So the only thing that I can give you are going to be your state codes, which are going to be located here at the link that I gave you earlier. Your local codes, your district would have to give to you. All right, so any questions on just the format of this kind of 3-page layout where you enter the incidents, you enter in the participant information, and then you're able to review that screen. It's just different from that drag and drop. Now, I talked about earlier how you can still use this with those referrals that come over from the teacher portal. So let me, and it's probably already logged me out, so let me log back in. As this teacher. Jan, I'll go in and show that pending in the next one. Natasha, if Ms. Smith wrote him and you move this from observation, would you still need to list her as a reporter? That's up to your district, Natasha. Most people do. All right, so if you allow for the referrals to start over in the Power Teacher portion, it does cut down on some of the work that the admins have to do because they're filling out all the incident stuff for the details page. So when I log in as a teacher, if the feature is turned on, I come over here to student observations. I click on student observations. You can see I've already written up one student in here, and the status is referred. So it's waning over in the admin portal for administrators to take note of. So I can go through and say, okay, I want to create an observation for another student. Now, as a teacher, I still have all the same, nothing has changed on the teacher side. So I can still go in and find a student, find a, whatever I need to. So let's say it was Mr. Tim Allen. And Tim was just having a bad day today, so it's already tagging the date and the time. Not worrying about the time frame, location, or any of this. So I'm just going to say that it was vaping, that, I caught a vape in his book bag, something like that. So vape in book bag. I also can have that remediation where I can say, for this kind of thing, he's already had detention for this once, or he's already had whatever. I can choose whatever I need and put any comments. Basically, that's all I'm going to put in as a teacher, and I'm going to submit it as participant not added. Got to click that add button. So once that add button's there, I would choose what role. So in this case, I would choose offender as the teacher or as the student. and I'm going to hit submit as referral. Now, this, to your point, Natasha, if you want the teacher to go ahead and set that person as a reporter, they can. So I can go to staff and then choose my name, hit add, and choose reporter, and it will go ahead and put that in there. So if you want them to go ahead and do this on this part, it can, and it will write it over there. Submit as referral. Okay, so it tells me now that Tim, along with one other person, has been submitted as a referral. So now I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to go back to the main screen, get out of students. Patrick, I have a whole video on setting that part up. So if you look at the YouTube channel, you can find it on there. I'll grab the link and put it in chat in just a little while for anybody who wants it. So if I go to people, all incidents, and I look specifically for my filter of incident type teacher referral, I can see that I have 2 that are in referred status that we need to work on. Now, I also have videos out there that will set up notifications for your users and put, this little bell sign up here that will let you know if a student has been written up and somebody needs to take action on them. Now, the first time you click into the notifications, it takes a minute to spin, so let's let it spin for just a second. While it's spinning, let me grab that video for you, Patrick, and for anybody else that wants to see that. Understanding PowerSchool's new observation and referrals. Is the video on setting that part up. Okay, so you can set up notifications for your folks to let them know with a little bell up there, because nobody's going to sit on this screen to just see, has a teacher referral come through, has a teacher referral come through. So there are ways to set up notifications so that they can see, hey, Brooklyn was set up on an incident and it needs to be acted upon. And so it actually can give you a link to go ahead and go to the student incident page from this. So I can click on this, or I can click on this to go into it. So we'll just click on it from here. And it's going to take me to that profanity incident here. Now, notice this came in as a teacher referral. So you have options here. You can either, one, say, okay, I've read, the comments, I've read the description, and I'm like, yep, this needs to come in as a referral. I can flip it to discipline, which will then activate it in the admin portal for me to be able to, work in. Or I can say, wait a minute, there's no description here. I need to send this back to her because I need her to add something in this before I do anything. It just says profanity. So what happened? So I can do return with feedback and say, please enter description. And then I can return. Okay. It says feedback has been sent successfully. So if I go back into the teacher portal, let me go back to the main screen. You can also set up notifications to allow the teacher to know, hey, something has been returned to you. Now, these notifications take like 2 to 3 minutes before they pop up in the bell, but eventually a bell will pop up for this one to say, hey, a incident has been returned for feedback that you need to enter. And if I go back into my student observations as a teacher, I would see that this has been returned, and people can always see the details of these where the feedback says, please enter the description. And it was done on this date by me. So you can give that information back to the teachers. Now, I'm going to go back to the all incident screen because I did have that one that I just put in for vaping where we put good stuff in there. So this one came in for the vaping, and this time I look and I see, okay, vape was caught in a book bag, time frame, everything's in there. Okay, yep, this is one that I need to go ahead and turn into an incident. So I'm going to come over here to teacher referral and change it to discipline. And notice when I hit discipline, I'm going to hit save. and it's going to make all of those boxes activate for me so that now as an admin, I can go in and make any adjustments that I need to. So if I need to pull in a template, if I need to just go ahead and start entering information like this right here, all looks good for me. But let's say it happened at, 11:29 instead of 11:39. I can go in and put whatever is needed right here. So in this case, I'm going to put that it was prepared by me. I'm not using a template on this one. I'm going to hit next. It's already got the teacher because she put it in as a reporter and went ahead and put the student. So now all I have to do is go in and put the behavior. So in this case, it's going to be vape possession because it was on the book bag. I can put a comment that, found in the book bag if I want to. I can add this action in right here to say, okay, for vaping found in the book bag, you're going to get, I don't know, this time let's say it's detention. So I've got local use. I'm going to go in and find detention. I'm going to enter in any information. I'm going to assign this to the behavior. So again, I've not pulled in a template. I'm just filling it out freeform this time. And so you're going to have detention on Thursday and Friday, and it's going to end on Friday and then 2 days. Put whatever information your district requires of you on this page. Update participant. And once that is done, detention is not something that I've got to do with attendance, so I don't have to worry about that. I can now go to my next screen, and I see vaping. The vape was in the book bag. This is the teacher that reported it. This is the student that did it. This is what they did. This is what they're getting because of it. And now we're going to hit save and close because we are finished with it. And it says that has saved successfully, and it's going to take me back to the all incident screens. Notice, and this is fixed from on the last time, it will not automatically go to that DAC screen unless you have something that had an attendance related entry to it. It used to pop up on every one of them, and that will not happen anymore. Okay. Now let's go back to this profanity one. Let's say it's been 2 or 3 days since you sent this teacher referral back to the teacher to put that description in on profanity. I know that we had people who in the past had said, yeah, when we got to this page, we would have issues where a teacher would not return it back. Well, there is now a new option right here. Do you see this where it says reclaim the observation? So if a teacher just is not responding to the referral and you need to go ahead and get it entered in, you can actually reclaim the observation. And it's going to say observation reclaimed by admin, where you can go in and then if you need to flip it to discipline, save it, and start working on that discipline incident. And over in the teacher portal, let me close out of this. Let's close or go back into it. Let's see if it updated automatically. Review details. You'll see observation has been reclaimed by the administrator. So it keeps that track of that on the teacher side, letting them know that, hey, you went and pulled it back over there. And once action has been taken, it will note that as well. So if I go back or refresh the screen, either one, notice that these now both say accepted because I accepted them and flipped them over to incidents over in the portal. And if I look at the vaping one that I did on Tim, if I go into the details here, I can see the participants, I can see the details, I can see the remediation, I can see outcomes. So if I wanted to know what happened to Tim, I can see behaviors and actions that were given to him as a teacher. So the teachers can see all of this inside of here once you go through and put that information on there over in the admin portal. So nothing has changed on the teacher side as far as that entry if you have been using observations, other than you now have an option where you can reclaim the observation and you can come in here and work on it at any time. So remember, I did not finish this observation right here. I just flipped it over to an incident and saved it because I've got to go talk to the teacher, get some information to know what to put in the description. So I'm just going to close it, which is now allows us to just kind of hold it where we can go back and enter that other information in later. Is there a way to receive an email when a teacher submits a referral? Yes, there is a way to set up a notification. So in that notification area, remember the one that I just did on Tim? It pops it here into the bell area, but in setting up the notification, there is a way to also have it send an email. Now, I will say this, the email will not give all of these details right here. It will not mention a student's name. It will not have any PII information, but it will say, hey, a referral has been submitted, so that you can come in here, click on the notification icon and see what to do there. And I will say, over in YouTube, I have also set up videos as well. Let me grab them on how to do that notification. So there are 2 videos: creating a notification to notify a teacher when a referral has been returned, and setting up a notification to notify an admin of a teacher referral. So if you have either of these set up, your folks will know when they got them in there. So, and then let me find that other one for you. On notifying a teacher if one has been returned. Evelyn, if school discipline is divided by alphabet, is there a way to have a teacher submitted referrals go to a designated admin? So unfortunately, Evelyn, that is not possible. You can set it up to go to people, but not like it doesn't know to look at the letters of the alphabet to say, well, anybody of these students go to this person and anybody of these students go to this person. You're just going to have it go to all of the admins that receive it, and they'll have to know if it's their kid or not to pull it down and act on it. All right, any other questions? Johnny, you had the one about if you have a suspended pending. So let's just go into our, I'm going to do it from a kiddo. Get my 12th graders that I know have good schedules. And let's go down here to Angel. So let's say that we have something going on with Angel. Let's see, I don't even want to use a template this time. So let's just say it was another fight, but I'm not going to use a fighting template. And let's say the time was at 10:52 this morning. It's going to be discipline. I would put my description in. Allison, when you save an incident but do not close it, how do you retrieve it to complete it and close it? You just go back to that all incidents page and it'll be listed there. Time frame, let's see, that's not needed, so I just put that. I'm going to hit next. Okay, it's got my kiddo on here, so I'm going to go ahead and add the behavior is fighting. Primary behavior. Add an action. And let's say that this is going to be suspended pending. Okay. I'm going to set that action to it. And let's say it starts tomorrow. And I know I've got the hearing Tuesday next week. Okay, I'm not worried about duration codes. I'm going to update participant. So I've got the kid, I've got the fighting, I've got the suspended pending hearing. It says, hey, I've got action, I've got action on this because in my setup, I have OSS because they're technically out of school suspended during this time. So I'm going to edit, set my range for OSS on there, hit next, save and close. All right, we're going to let it write this. It's going to give me my DAC calculation. There's my 4 days of OSS. It's going to be submitted. And so now I have that information in there. Now, let me flip because I always like my current date on top. So here's the fight. So let's pretend that it's, 4 days later and we had the hearing and I need to adjust this. So I'm going to come back into that incident. And I see all the information that's in there. I can click next. I can click up here on participants and say, okay, I need to edit this because now it's no longer suspended pending. Let's say that they're going to get 10 days out of school suspension. So how would I adjust this to denote that? I could come in here to edit and I can say, okay, well, this is no longer going to be suspended pending. I can say this is going to be suspended out of school and I could go ahead and adjust these dates. So instead of the action end date being the 14th, I know the actual resolution date is now going to be 5 more days on top of that. So I could change it to that, update the participant. Or let's say it's something where maybe you're going to do the 5 days of OSS, but then you're going to add on 3 days of ISS that they're going to do also when they come back. So in that case, I would change this back to the 714, change this, whoops, I would leave that out of school because that's what it would turn into, is those be out of school. But I would come down here, and below this, I would say, okay, I'm going to add also another action of 3 days ISS. So my action code is going to be ISS. It's also going to get assigned to that same fighting behavior, and it's going to be held on the 15th through the 17th. Actual resolution date of that's going to be on the 17th. Not worrying about the duration codes. Update participant. So now I've got the fighting, which is what happened. What had originally been suspended pending a hearing turned into 5 days of out of school suspension, and then they're going to serve their 3 days of in school suspension when they come back from this out of school. So see, the 9th through the 14th. And then this, and you can always put those notes in there, because a lot of people say, well, how do I know that it was from a hearing? You can always put, notes in here. This is an out of school suspension turn after doing a hearing, blah, 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 whatever you need to inside of there. Absolutely okay to do. Now, again, notice I've got 2 edits for these. So I'm going to edit my in-school suspension, set the range for all of those. I can double check here because I did change the date and then change it back, set range for all, hit OK, and now my buttons have highlighted, so I can go to the next step and go, okay, this kiddo now has the action code, 2 of them, to that behavior right here. Save and close. It's going to save. It's going to write back over to my DAC, making all the adjustments like those were already there, so no worries there, but I do need these 3 days of ISS, and I hit submit because it was original OSS saved when I saved it the first time as pending a hearing. Alice, is there an indicator that it has not been closed if you save only? I do not believe that there is. That's good feedback that I can give to PowerSchool to see. What about adding at home learning? You'll have to be a little bit more specific in that, Reginald. I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. Like if the punishment is you're just turning them into a virtual student? Do you have that in as a local use code? If so, that's what you would have to select in there. And then, of course, you would need to mark it on the learning preferences page. So most of these are going to be driven by what local codes y'all have put in that are outside of any of the SIR state reportable codes. All right, any other questions about the workflow of adding these, or do y'all feel comfortable enough that you're going to be able to go through these? And also don't forget, if your districts have not told you, 2 weeks ago now, was it 2 weeks? Yes, 2 weeks ago now. No, it was last week. My weeks are blurred because I've been in conferences the last 4 weeks. But last week I sent the emails out to all the districts letting them know about a training server that you all now have access to. There were 20 users that were put in the gate, just blanket users, but they can go in. Y'all have access to this training server that you can go in and play with this. That way you can get used to it before school starts. So get with your district PowerSchool admin to see if they've started setting this up for you, because they do have to go in and set up. I know I've heard from a few districts about going ahead and importing students in once they've set up their FTE for everything. So I'm just going to pick on Chambers County because they're the last ones that I imported. So every district basically is a school inside of this server, and y'all have access to your school. So if I go look at Chambers County and search for kiddos. See, they've got 133 kids that are in here. They can click on and all their kids are Star Wars names. Each of y'all are getting a theme, so you'll have to figure out your theme once I put your 130 kids in there. And y'all can go in and create more kids, you can create more users, you can do whatever, but y'all can go over here and you can play with these incidents. So if you wanted to practice creating an incident in this training server, you absolutely can. And I've even put one template in here. I'll work on getting some more in here, but this just gives you an idea of what using a template looks like. Let's say it happens at 11, prepared by me. Let's see. Enter description here. Test. Let's see. Oh, time cannot be in the future. Oh, yeah, not PM. Well, got a hard stop there. There we go. See, it won't light up those boxes if you got errors on these. And so I hit next, and I could go through here and I can click on them, and I can throw that template on there and say it's their first offense. What do I need to highlight? Oh, I just need to know that the local use is going to be detention, and what days am I going to give them detention? So let's say they're going to have detention tomorrow. So I put that date on there, put that date on there, hit update, and y'all, that's seriously how quickly these incidents can go now. So I'm going to hit save. What did I just hit? Oh, I just saved it. So if I close, I can go back into it and then save and close instead of save. Something would have to be changed. Change reasons. Oh, you also have your change history up here. So you can see when this information was entered, what was changed on it. Typically, you wouldn't hit save if you didn't have everything on there. If you had everything, you would just hit save and close. And honestly, save and close do the exact same thing to it. It closes it. It finishes it out. However, the DAC part will not populate without hitting that save and close button. So really, all the information's in there. This is going to feed to the state the way that it needs to, even though I just hit save because everything is on there. If I needed to adjust anything, I absolutely could. I could come back here to the participant details, click in here and go, okay, it's not going to be detention. It's going to be, called a parent or whatever it is. I got to put some more local use codes in here for you. If I needed to say that it was, expelled, or I got to take some of these others out that shouldn't be in there. I could change it to the in-school suspension. You're going to see what some of these are going to look like once we get these pumped into prod for you. Put the dates on there, update the participant. Now I can hit save and close. It's going to go through. Spin that on there. The DAC is going to get added to it today. That's got to be updated on this training server. That's not been, but it will be by the end of the day today. So y'all do have this training server, training AL7. Talk to your district PowerSchool person about getting access to that. And y'all can play in here and practice without doing things to real kiddos. Daniel, just with an elementary principal, she sees our other school's incidents when she goes to all incidents. This was not the way it was until this update. So Daniel, make sure that it's going to show incidents on any kids that are in her school, even if they're past incidents. So that's probably what she is seeing. That's always been like that. If she sees a student that's not a student at her school, let me know. And you've double checked her security to make sure she doesn't have that on there? If that is the case, go ahead and get a PowerSchool support ticket and send me that case number so I can get them looking into that. But that definitely should not be the case. All right, any other questions for anyone? All right, I am going to stop the recording because it's going to need to render and I'm going to have to do some editing of that.